The galactic peace station floated above a dying red star. Inside, leaders of over 100 alien species gathered. The great hall was wide, filled with banners of peace and ancient codes. Every seat was taken. War had ended 3 centuries ago. This meeting was meant to keep it that way. Humans were the newest members. They sat quietly in the back row. They had only joined the Galactic Council 10 years ago. Most other species still didn't trust them. Some called them Death Worlders, behind their backs. Others laughed at their small numbers and strange biology. One alien, a tall and scaled ambassador from the Krovar Empire, stood to speak. His voice was sharp and loud. "We still believe humans don't belong here," he said, eyes glowing. "They come from a violent world. They solve problems with fists, not minds. They are dangerous." The room stayed silent. The human delegation stayed silent too. Just 4 of them. 3 diplomats, and 1 guard. That guard stood behind the group, arms crossed. He looked young, no armor, no weapons. Just a simple uniform. He didn't move. He didn't blink. The Krovar ambassador walked closer. He pointed straight at the humans. "You don't belong in this hall of peace," he shouted. "Your kind should be watched, not trusted." Still, the human said nothing. Then it happened. The Krovar ambassador walked too close. He raised a hand toward the human diplomat's face. That was when the guard stepped forward. 1 step. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He raised his fist, and without warning, punched the ambassador straight in the chest. 1 punch. There was a flash of movement, fast as lightning. The sound that followed was not normal. It was not just a hit. It was a boom. The Krovar ambassador flew backward across the hall. He smashed through 2 chairs and hit a wall hard enough to crack it. The floor beneath him split. The wall behind him shook. Smoke and dust filled the air. Everyone stood. Some screamed. Others drew weapons. The room turned into chaos. The human guard lowered his fist. His face stayed calm. He didn't move again. His breathing was normal. No anger. No fear. The Krovar ambassador was still alive, but barely. He groaned on the ground. His chest armor was crushed in. Blood leaked from his mouth. His own guards ran to him. Security bots flew into the room. Weapons locked on the human guard. The human diplomats raised their hands. "Stand down." One said. It was a defensive action. Defensive. The council didn't agree. A voice rang from the center. "That was an attack on a council member. This is a declaration of war." But the humans didn't reply. They turned and walked out. The guard followed behind them, still silent. In the control room above the hall, a technician replayed the footage. He zoomed in, slowed it down. "No way," he whispered. The punch wasn't wild. It was precise. The human had twisted his foot, shifted his weight, and struck at the perfect angle. The ambassador was twice his size and still went flying. And then they saw something terrifying. The guard had pulled his punch. He held back. If he hadn't, the ambassador wouldn't be breathing. Word spread fast. Across the galaxy, news channels showed the clip again and again. 1 punch. 1 moment. A peace that lasted 300 years. Now broken. Alien generals watched the footage in silence. Some asked if humans had secret weapons. Others asked if that was normal for their kind. The answer? No one knew. The guard's name wasn't even recorded in public files. The humans refused to answer questions. They left the station the same day. The Krovar Empire began moving warships to the border. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Panic spread. If humans could do that with 1 punch, what could their armies do? But the humans didn't threaten anyone. They didn't speak on the matter. They just disappeared from public view. No words. No warnings. Only silence. And that silence was louder than war. The galaxy had learned something new that day. Humans might be small, they might be quiet, but they were not weak. 1 punch had changed everything, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Krovar ambassador was still in medical stasis, ribs broken, organs damaged. He could barely breathe without machines. And still, he was lucky. That punch could have killed him. The Galactic Council was furious. In a private meeting chamber, orbiting the neutral moon of Bes 3, 25 leaders gathered. Holograms flickered across the room, all focused on one word blinking in red. War. An old alien leader slammed the table with his clawed hand. This is an insult to the peace we built. A human raised his fist inside this chamber. That is an act of war. Others shouted in agreement. Voices overlapped. Languages twisted together in anger. They must surrender the attacker. Send a message now. Demand full submission from Earth. But one alien, the leader of a small, quiet species, spoke slowly. Did you see the punch? He asked. The room fell silent. They held back. Those words changed the air. Held back? The others reviewed the data again. The footage, the damage, the way the human had turned his wrist precisely like a master of war. Like he had trained to do just enough. That terrified them more than if the guard had gone wild, because it meant the punch was controlled, planned, calculated. They voted anyway. Humanity was given 48 hours to surrender the attacker or face full-scale military action. Back on Earth, in a hidden command room deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, the human leaders read the demand. No one spoke. The room was cold, silent, and full of screens showing alien fleet movements. Warships were gathering near the Sol Gate. Battle formations were being rehearsed. One man, the lead diplomat, finally said, "What do they expect us to do? Apologize for not letting one of our own be slapped in front of 1,000 species?" Another spoke calmly. "We gave them 10 years of peace. We warned them not to test us." And then they all turned to one screen. It showed a list of active ships. Status: silent, hidden, ready. They did not send an answer. They sent nothing. Hours passed. The council grew angrier. More empires joined the call for punishment. Protests rose. On alien worlds, they called humans arrogant deathworlders. They called for invasion, occupation, domination. But then, something strange happened. One of the border fleets positioned near the Kupri Nebula went silent. No messages. No distress. Just gone. Scouts were sent to investigate. What they found made them stop breathing. The fleet wasn't destroyed. It was still there, but powered down. Every warship, every system, cold and dark. Their crews were alive, unconscious. Systems weren't damaged, just offline. As if someone had flipped a switch across dozens of battleships. A symbol was left on. Each bridge a simple circle, the human symbol for 0. No damage. No death. Just a warning. Back at the council, the panic truly began. This was a human response, one leader whispered. But how? No shots were fired. No one saw a ship. Another leaned forward, eyes wide. They didn't answer the demand, because they already made their move. Now the council no longer shouted for war. They whispered. They questioned. They doubted. Because something was becoming terrifyingly clear. Humans had prepared for this. They were not scared. They were waiting. And in the shadows of space, something worse than weapons was spreading. Fear. Fear that the human fleet wasn't made to fight wars. It was made to end them before they began. One final message arrived to the council, without sound, without signal. It was a simple video clip. Not of the punch, not of the council. Just the human guard, in a training room, hitting a steel wall. Once. The wall bent, then broke, and then the floor cracked beneath it. Text appeared under the image. This was a warning shot. The next one is real. The Galactic Council thought the human guard had acted on emotion. They were wrong. Far across the galaxy, in a cold, quiet moon station orbiting a black gas giant, a group of alien analysts gathered around a table. They were not politicians. They were not generals. They were pattern seekers. They had one job, to study threats before they became wars, and right now, their screens all showed one thing, the punch, again and again. Slowed down, paused, rewound, zoomed. Every tiny movement was reviewed. He shifted his left foot before impact, one said. He absorbed the ground recoil. Another added. His spine twisted exactly 13 degrees. He didn't hit with raw strength. He used physics. Then came silence. The leader of the group, an old, soft-spoken creature, said what none of them wanted to admit. That punch was not wild. It was trained. The data was terrifying. The human had struck with surgical precision. Not to kill, not to destroy, but to send a message. A message that traveled faster than any weapon. Meanwhile, deep in a forgotten human base buried under the sands of Mars, a secret training room lit up. Inside, cameras turned on. A group of young human recruits stood in a circle. In the center stood him, the guard who threw the punch, but here he wore no uniform, just a simple black shirt and gloves. One recruit asked, "Did they really threaten war because of one hit?" The guard finally spoke. His voice was calm, low. It wasn't one punch. He turned to the wall, smashed it with an elbow. Steel cracked. He continued, "It was a demonstration." The room froze. He walked slowly toward a screen showing news from across the galaxy. They needed to see it. They needed to remember. Another recruit asked, "But why now?" He paused, then replied, "Because for 10 years, they looked at humans like we were weak, like we didn't belong. But we've been watching them the whole time, learning, preparing." He looked at his fists. They wanted peace, built on control. That's not peace. Back in Council territory, scientists continued to analyze human biology. They broke into ancient archives from first contact, a time long buried. They found sealed footage, records that had been deleted from public knowledge. Early alien explorers visiting Earth had seen things they didn't want to share. Humans lifting weights that broke machines, children surviving conditions that would kill adult aliens, soldiers running across deserts with wounds that should have stopped their hearts. One log entry read, "They survive because they expect pain. They fight because they're used to death, and yet they smile." Another simply said, "If they ever unite, we will never win." These files had been hidden to protect the illusion of peace. Now they were out, and fear turned into panic. Across the stars, empires began pulling ships back from human borders. Trade routes shut down. News channels whispered words that had not been spoken in centuries. Deathworlders are awake. The punch was a message. Humanity was patient but not peaceful, but it was too late to turn back, because humans weren't speaking. They weren't threatening. They were just preparing. And then came the second sign. On the edge of a quiet star system, a mining crew picked up a strange object. At first, it looked like debris. But when they brought it aboard, the power shut down. Their lights died. Airlocks froze. Engines stalled. Then the object began to glow. It projected an image into the air, grainy, black and white. It was the punch, the same exact frame. The sound played after the image faded. That was control, not power. Next time, we don't hold back. Then the object melted into ash. That day, the Galactic Council met in silence. No one mentioned war. No one mentioned surrender. Now they asked a new question. If that was control, what does real power look like? The galaxy remembered the punch. What it had forgotten was what came before it. In a cold archive station orbiting the forgotten star D Theta 7, a research AI stirred to life. It wasn't supposed to. It was locked away, offline for 150 years. But something had triggered it. The keyword, human threat. Old files began to glow in the dark. Hidden reports, blacked out videos, forgotten interviews. And buried deep in the digital vault was one file marked only First contact, do not open. But the AI opened it, and everything changed. The report was from the very first alien crew that visited Earth, long before humans joined the Council. It told a different story from the peaceful introductions shown in Council history books. The crew had landed in a desert. Not a city, not a lab, a war zone. They saw things no diplomat ever saw. People fighting with handmade weapons, others dragging their wounded through fire. A man ran toward an enemy tank, with no armor, no backup, and still won. But what shocked them most wasn't the violence. It was what happened after. The same fighters who had screamed through fire were now laughing, cooking food, and sharing stories. One had broken 3 ribs and still danced around a fire that night. The alien captain wrote, "They live with death, like it's an old friend." Another note read, "They should not be feared because they are violent. They should be feared because they survive things no one else can, and they don't break." This early first contact crew tried to report the truth to the Council. They were stopped. Their recordings were sealed. Their warnings ignored. The Council believed humanity would either destroy itself or calm down over time. They were wrong on both. Now, with the punch-making headlines across star systems, these forgotten files leaked. Someone, maybe the humans themselves, wanted the galaxy to see. Suddenly, everyone remembered stories they had pushed away. Old rumors. Warnings spoken in back rooms. A traitor once told of a human who walked through a frozen planet's surface barefoot, just to deliver medicine. A soldier remembered watching a human pilot land a ship with a missing wing, using only gravity tricks and pure instinct. A medic recalled a human who had been burned in battle but refused anesthesia, just wanted the job done. And then came the worst file. A silent video. No sound, no edits. A small human village. Under attack. Aliens in armored suits arrived, weapons high. A warning had been given: surrender or be crushed. The humans didn't run. They didn't fight either. They just stood, quiet, calm, until one of them stepped forward. It wasn't a soldier, it was a child. He stared at the invaders without fear. And then he said something, unheard in the video but later translated in the logs. "You can hurt us, but you won't stop us." The invaders laughed. 2 minutes later, they were all unconscious. No humans were killed. The attackers never spoke of what happened. That clip vanished for decades, until now. Across the Council's secure networks, panic spread like wildfire. These were not stories of war. These were stories of something worse: unbreakable will, relentless spirit, quiet power. In hidden war rooms, alien empires began to argue. One commander said, "They don't even use full force. They just do enough to make a point." Another replied, "That's what's terrifying. They haven't shown us what they're truly capable of." Another whispered what no one wanted to say aloud. Maybe that punch was just permission. Permission to wake up. Permission to show the galaxy what Earth had always hidden. And while the galaxy looked backward in fear, the humans were already looking forward. A single fleet, dark as space itself, began to rise from the hidden side of Earth's moon. No lights, no signal, just motion. Above it, a name glowed across the hull of the lead ship. Project Remember Us. They expected anger. They expected threats. They expected a war announcement. But humans sent nothing. No response. No words. Only ships. Far across the galaxy, near the edge of known space, something strange began to happen. One by one. Powerful. Alien empires lost track of their satellites. Not destroyed, just gone. Communication hubs went offline. Trade routes became silent. And then, in the darkness between systems, they appeared. Human ships. Not hundreds, not thousands, just 13. But they moved like shadows. Quiet, smooth, deadly. No signals, no flags. No lights. Only one thing made them known. The fear that followed. A patrol fleet from the Valari Empire spotted them first. Captain of the fleet ordered scans. Unknown hull design. No energy signatures. He tried to hail them. No reply. They locked weapons. Still no reaction. Then every screen aboard every Valari ship went black. A single word appeared in plain white text. Observe. Their engines shut down, weapons froze, the crews could only watch as the human ships passed by and vanished into the void like ghosts. News traveled fast. Human ships were no longer docked near Earth. They had spread, everywhere, not to attack. Not to speak. To be seen. To remind the galaxy of what was now watching them back. The Council was shaken. Armies tried to track the fleet, but nothing worked. The human ships didn't follow known routes. They moved through radiation belts, asteroid fields, places no one dared enter, and still, not a single word. No threats, just silence, louder than war. In the capital world of the Krovar Empire, where the ambassador still healed from the punch, leaders gathered in panic. The humans are hunting us, one said. No, replied another. They're not. They're showing us what they can do without even firing a shot. Outside the window, a new terror unfolded. A massive object hovered in orbit. It wasn't there the day before, it wasn't on scanners. But it was real. A human dreadnought, long, black, scarred from age and storms. Its hull had no markings, no name, except for one word etched in deep metal across its side. Remember. Inside the dreadnought, a single human captain stood alone on the bridge. He looked out across the stars with quiet eyes. A message blinked on the screen. Council still. Demand surrender. Respond? He didn't type. He didn't speak. He simply turned off the message. Then he whispered, almost to himself, "Let them look. Let them understand." And the dreadnought faded back into space like smoke, its engines leaving no trail. That day something changed in every empire, every system, every species. No longer did they ask, "Will humans fight back?" Now they asked, "Have they already started?" And somewhere deep in a hidden research world, a single alien scientist ran tests again and again, trying to figure out how a fleet that made no sound caused this much fear. She couldn't explain it, until she found an ancient human phrase in one of their old books. She read it aloud, confused, but then chills ran down her spine. Speak softly, and carry a big stick. The galaxy had reached its limit, after the silent fleets, after the frozen ships. After the dreadnought called Remember hovered over an empire's capital, fear turned to begging. The Council sent an urgent message across all channels. Humanity, we invite you to peace talks. Please come to the central chamber. No tricks, no weapons, just words. For the first time in weeks, Earth replied. One word. Agreed. The galactic chamber was set. Security was everywhere. Sniper drones floated above the hall. Force fields covered every entry. Medical crews stood, ready, but most importantly, everyone watched the door. Then it opened. One human walked in. No army, no war fleet. Just a single figure in a long black coat. No weapons, no helmet, no smile. His boots echoed as he walked. Each step felt like thunder in the hearts of alien leaders. He reached the center of the chamber. Didn't sit, didn't bow, just looked up and waited. The council speaker cleared his throat. Human representative, we ask for calm. We ask for your forgiveness. The human said nothing. Another alien leader spoke nervously. We believe a misunderstanding happened. The punch, the fleets. Surely there is still room for peace? Still, the human said nothing. Then a soft beep came from his wrist. A small cube dropped onto the table. It lit up, projecting a map of the galaxy. Dots began to glow. Red dots, council fleets. Green dots, human ships. What the leaders saw made their blood freeze. The green dots were everywhere, near capitals, under moons, inside asteroid fields, behind council bases, already in position, and none had been detected before. The council speaker's voice cracked. How long have these ships been there? The human finally spoke, quiet, deep, cold. Long enough. The room fell silent. Then the projection changed again. It showed something worse, a simulation. It played out in real time. Council fleets reacting, trying to fight back, firing weapons one by one. Every red dot disappeared. The battle lasted 4 minutes. No humans died in the simulation. Every council ship was neutralized. No mass destruction, no civilian harm, just precision, clean, cold, final. This, the human said, is what we haven't done. He stepped closer. You asked for peace, then mocked us, threatened us, tried to break us with politics and fear. He placed one hand on the glowing cube. We didn't start this. The cube's light changed from green to white. But we decide when it ends. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The council speaker stammered. Then, what do you want? The human leaned in, voice calm, flat. We don't want control. We don't want your thrones. We don't need your approval. He turned to leave. We only want you to remember one thing. He looked back one last time. We're still holding back. He walked out, left the cube behind. It continued projecting the final image. Not war, just the words. Respect is earned. Trust is tested. Peace is protected. Below it, in small letters, one punch, one warning. That day, no fleet moved, no war started, no council dared to respond, because everyone finally understood. The humans weren't waiting for peace. They were watching to see if the galaxy still deserved it. The punch was only the beginning. The silence after was louder than war. And now the galaxy stood still. Every empire, every fleet, every leader waited. They weren't waiting to strike. They were waiting for Earth's next move, but Earth didn't attack, didn't send more fleets, didn't speak again. Instead, humanity simply watched, and the galaxy understood. The balance of power had shifted. Forever. A week after the peace talks, strange things started happening. On the mining world of Ekron 5, a lost cargo ship suddenly appeared in orbit, rebuilt, restocked, and marked with a human symbol. On the war-ravaged moon of Karka, ancient weapons left behind by old battles were gone. In their place, food, clean water, and a message. Fix it. No more excuses. Humanity wasn't just flexing power. They were rebuilding the galaxy without asking for permission, without forming alliances, without needing approval, and the other species could only stare. On a quiet station in the Outer Rim, 2 alien soldiers watched a human video clip on a black market feed. The punch, the wall crack, the simulation. One of them whispered, "They never fired a real shot." The other replied, "They didn't need to." Suddenly, a message appeared at the bottom of the video. "This is your only warning. The second punch ends it all." They turned off the screen, sat in silence. Back in the Galactic Council, a vote was held. For the first time in history, Earth was offered a permanent seat, not as a junior member, but as a founding power. The vote passed. Unanimously. When the message was sent to Earth, no reply came for 3 days. Then a short answer returned. We accept, but we don't kneel. No anthem, no celebration, just a reminder. Earth didn't rise to power through politics. It rose because it was ignored until it couldn't be anymore. In schools across the stars, a new lesson was added to every history book. The day the galaxy changed. One punch that redrew the stars. Children watched the simulation in class. Soldiers studied it in training. Leaders whispered about it in private. And somewhere, deep in the void, a human ship floated silently. No signals, no destination, just one message on its hull. We tried peace. You wanted proof. But the story didn't end there, because in a hidden research lab on a dark moon, an alien scientist discovered something shocking. The human who threw the punch? He wasn't a top soldier, wasn't a war hero, wasn't even a trained warrior, just a security officer with basic training. She stared at the file in silence. If that was a beginner, what would happen if Earth ever sent their best? And so across the galaxy a new law formed, not written in ink or code, but carved into the hearts of every species. Do not provoke Earth. Do not test humans. And above all, never forget the punch.